Subscribe and follow.
The clock on my dashboard blinked 12:14 a.m. I had been driving for hours. Just me and the endless stretch of highway. Cutting through the dark. The only light came from my headlights, the occasional street lamp, and the faint glow of the moon hanging in the sky, like a pale eye. It was one of those nights where the air felt heavy, oppressive even, as if the darkness itself was pressing down on the car. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, though I couldn't quite put my finger on what. The road was empty. I hadn't seen another car in over an hour. Just me, my thoughts, and the hum of the engine. Maybe it was just the fatigue creeping in. I was on my way back from a business trip that had dragged longer than expected. The last-minute meeting, the endless conference calls, and the paperwork had eaten up the entire day. Now I was dead tired, just trying to make it home. But the road seemed to stretch on forever, and the night, something about it felt off. I glanced at the fuel gauge, which was dipping toward empty. I needed gas soon. I hadn't passed a station in miles. There had to be one coming up, right? I shifted uncomfortably in my seat and flicked on the radio, hoping for something, anything, to break the silence. But all I got was static, a soft hiss that filled the car and seemed to seep into my bones. I tried scanning for stations. Nothing. Static on every channel. My hand hovered over the volume dial when something broke through the white noise. It was faint, just a whisper of sound, but it was there. Hello. I froze, my heart skipping a beat. Did I imagine that? I turned the volume up, leaning in closer to the speaker. The static grew louder, crackling like a live wire, and then, "Is anyone there?" The voice was faint, almost drowned out by the noise, but unmistakable. It was a woman's voice, weak and trembling. I grabbed the radio, fiddling with the dial, trying to tune it in better. The static flared, swallowing the voice entirely. I tapped the dashboard in frustration. What the hell? I pulled over to the shoulder, cutting the engine. Maybe if I stopped, I could get a better signal. "Please help." The voice cut through the hiss again, clearer now, but still faint, like it was coming from far away. My skin prickled. I grabbed my phone from the cup holder, but there was no signal. Of course. Typical. I leaned back in my seat, staring at the dark road ahead. It stretched on, disappearing into the blackness. But there was something out there now. I could feel it. My pulse quickened, and I told myself it was just fatigue messing with my head. But then the voice came again, clearer this time. "He's coming, please." A chill ran down my spine. I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. The voice was real. Someone was out there. Someone who needed help. I flicked on the high beams, casting a wide arc of light into the night. Nothing. Just the road, and the trees lining the highway, like sentinels. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me from the shadows. I debated what to do next. I could keep driving, ignore it, and chalk it up to some radio interference. But that voice, there was no mistaking the fear in it. I couldn't just leave. Taking a deep breath, I put the car back in drive and pulled back onto the highway, my eyes scanning the sides of the road for any sign of someone. Minutes passed, but nothing appeared. No broken down car, no figure walking along the shoulder. I began to doubt myself. Maybe I was just hearing things after all. But then, up ahead, something caught my eye. A faint light flickering through the trees on the side of the road. I slowed down, pulling over again. The light was there, small and weak, barely visible through the thick woods. I hesitated. Everything in me screamed to leave, to keep driving. But that voice. I grabbed a flashlight from the glove compartment and stepped out of the car. The cold air hit me like a slap, sharp and biting. The woods loomed ahead, dark and impenetrable. I shined the light into the trees, trying to find the source of the glow. There it was, deeper in, just beyond the first row of trunks. I took a few cautious steps toward it. The light didn't move. It just hovered there, faint but constant. My footsteps crunched on the gravel as I moved closer, and the air grew colder. So cold I could see my breath in the beam of the flashlight. The trees seemed to close in around me, the branches overhead twisting like gnarled fingers. The light flickered again, then went out. I stopped, heart pounding. I was surrounded by darkness now. The flashlight, the only thing keeping the shadows at bay. I turned slowly, scanning the trees. Nothing. Just the rustle of leaves in the wind. Then I heard it. A footstep. Soft, deliberate. My blood ran cold. I whipped the flashlight toward the sound, but there was nothing there. Just trees and shadows. But I knew I wasn't alone. Another step. Closer this time. I backed up, my heart racing. The beam of light shook in my hand as I searched for the source of the sound. My breath came in shallow gasps, and every instinct in my body screamed for me to run. But I couldn't move. I was frozen, paralyzed by the darkness pressing in on me. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. A figure, standing just beyond the reach of the flashlight. Tall, thin, and wrong. Its limbs were too long, its posture unnatural, bent in a way that no human should be. And its eyes, they glowed, faintly, like two pinpricks of light in the shadows. I stumbled back, barely able to breathe. The figure didn't move, but I could feel its gaze on me, cold and hungry. I turned and ran. Branches whipped at my face as I crashed through the trees, heart pounding in my throat. I didn't dare look back. I just ran, the flashlight bouncing wildly in my hand. I burst out of the woods and onto the highway, gasping for air. My car was just ahead. I fumbled with the keys, throwing myself into the driver's seat and slamming the door shut. My hands shook as I jammed the key into the ignition. The engine roared to life, and I peeled out, tires screeching on the asphalt. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I just drove faster and faster as the darkness swallowed the road behind me.
Join our family and be part of our adventures. Just click the subscribe button now.